Making the decision to move into a new, smaller home meant that we were going to need to declutter 10 years worth of stuff, which, believe me, was a very onerous task. It certainly wasn't easy, but I feel that the lessons I learned have been really valuable, and they're going to be valuable for me moving forward in continuing to draw upon minimalist philosophy throughout my life. So in this video, I wanted to take you through the 10 really important life lessons I learned from decluttering over 10 years worth of stuff. So the first lesson I learned is that decluttering takes time. When I went into the decluttering process, I kind of thought it would be a do it once and that's it. And what I learned was that over the time we were decluttering, which was a number of weeks, I would go back to areas that we'd done before because I'd been thinking about things I hadn't decluttered and considering whether I really did need to keep a hold of them. The more I decluttered, the more objective I was able to become about the stuff that I was having trouble letting go of. Now, decluttering was never about getting rid of everything for me. I don't feel that we need to get rid of everything in order to adopt a minimalist lifestyle or philosophy, but certainly I wanted to get really clear on the things that mattered to me, that were going to add value to my life, that were going to have a function and a purpose, versus the things I was holding on to which had sat around for literally years. I'd done nothing with them, and actually other people were going to get more value out of them. And I'm also mindful that decluttering is probably going to be something I'm going to need to do regularly throughout the rest of my life, just to keep on top of it so that I don't end up in the same position again. The next lesson I learned is that I need far less than I think. So for example, in our kitchen, we had a lot of utensils that we had doubles for. I've no idea why. We even had utensils that we didn't really know what they did. There was lots of stuff and far more crockery than we needed, far more cutlery than we needed. Also, when I looked at my clothes, when I looked through the items of clothing that I have, I realized that really I only tended to wear a few things and rotated those things. There were lots of other items I'd forgotten I had, other items I might have worn in the past but that I no longer did. So it was really good to get rid of those and give them to charity because they were no longer of use to me. And it made me realize that I didn't need a huge clothing collection as such because I tended to wear the same things over again. Lesson number 3 I learned is that I tend to put too much value on material things, and I think a lot of people can say that they do this as well. Now, I do think there are material things that add a lot of value to our lives. I know, for example, that my car is a bit of a money trap. I do put away money regularly so that when it comes to its regular service or any kind of sudden repairs, I have the money there. But for me, my car is a huge value because it gets me to work and it enables me to travel to places that would be really quite tricky to get to on public transport, because where I live at the moment, public transport isn't great at getting to the sorts of places that I want to go to, which is out in the countryside and more rural areas. But there are other things that maybe I've not necessarily purchased them, but I've been looking at them online and I felt that they're far more important than what they actually are. It might be a piece of jewellery that looks really nice, or an item of clothing that I feel I need because everybody else is raving about it, so therefore I must need it. But when I kind of step back and zoom out and think about where those things lie in the grand scheme of things in terms of me wanting to live a more meaningful and fulfilling life by connecting more to the world around me and building better relationships with people, those material things, the value of them just pales into insignificance, really. I don't feel that people tend to remember you for the material things you have. They remember you for the person you are and how you treat them. And so when I look at material things now, I try to see them within the bigger picture of what life is all about. Lesson number 4 I learned during my decluttering process was that letting go can be really hard but liberating. That process whereby you wrestle with whether you want to keep hold of something, or you're wrestling with, well, should I hold on to this? It has sentimental value or it has memories attached to it, and then taking that step to let go is so freeing. I had lots of books, I had lots of CDs that literally had sat on shelves for years. I hadn't used them. I'd thought to myself, I really should let go of those things so somebody else can get use of them, but I held on to them. I wasn't ready to let them go. But once I did let them go, the anxiety that I'd been holding on to that perhaps I probably hadn't realised, that went. There was this wave of relief of I don't have to think about those things anymore. I don't have to think about whether or not I should or shouldn't get rid of them. So it's been a really freeing process. And certainly there are some sentimental things that I have kept hold of because I don't want to let go of them. But actually, the more I did that, the more I let go of those things and felt that liberation and felt that relief, the more confidence it gave me to do the same with other things. Lesson number 5 I learned is that emotions play a huge role in us holding on to stuff. There were things that I was very reluctant to let go of. I had a significant emotional connection to because they were bought for me by people who have since passed away, and those were people I cared a lot about. But these ornaments were chipped, they were broken, they were no use anymore. And so there was a real wrestling of whether or not to get rid of those things. And that was really hard because it felt like I was disrespecting the memory of the person who had bought that thing for me. But when I thought about it, I thought me getting rid of that thing is not going to make the memory of that person and what they meant to me disappear. When I think about that person, it is not because of the things they bought me, it is because the experiences I had with that person, it is because the love I had from that person. That took time for me to work through that when it came to decluttering some of the more sentimental items. But I don't regret decluttering them because I recognise that they were no longer of use and that my connection with that person is far deeper than a physical object. And by the way, let me know down in the comments of the lessons that you've learned during your own decluttering process. Lesson number 6 is that decluttering for me has reduced decision fatigue. For example, with my clothing, because I've reduced the amount of clothes I have, I don't have so many options to pick from in terms of what I'm going to wear. And so that helps to reduce the overwhelm sometimes that can come when we have too many options to choose from. And again, I think it comes back to the fact we tend to stick with the same things. Like I would tend to wear the same rotation of items from my wardrobe, but the fact that I had all of these other things there would often make me feel like I should wear those things, or then I would get the guilt of, well, maybe I should just get rid of those things because I'm not using them anyway. But there was that fear then of, if I got rid of these things I wasn't necessarily wearing all the time, would I then suddenly want to wear them when they weren't there? But I haven't regretted any of the things I've decluttered, including the items of clothing that I've decluttered, because as suspected, I'm still rotating through the same things to wear, and so I don't need as many of those things as I thought I did. Lesson 7 was that decluttering really helped me to appreciate what was important in life. I talk about this in another video, but briefly, we had to make the decision to say goodbye to our beautiful girl Cookie back in mid-January 2024. It's only March 2024 now as I film this, so we're very much still in the adjustment process of, adjusting to life without her. But the pain and the grief of losing her, which is still very much present, but because that has been there alongside this decluttering process, it really helped me to appreciate what really matters in life. And through the decluttering, I started to see that all of these material things that I'd placed so much value on, all of these material things that I thought I needed to hold on to just in case, because I don't know, they felt so important to me, they weren't important. What is important and what was important was my relationship with Cookie, who brought so much joy to my life. We had so many adventures and experiences together, and I guess it's that old cliche that you don't really realise how amazing those experiences and that love is until it's no longer there. And so it really made me think about how I can be more present in life, how I can be more engaged in life and appreciate things as they are happening, and those connections, those relationships, those experiences that are going to help me to do that and add meaning and fulfillment to my life. Not that I've got clothing that I don't really use, or I've got hundreds of books and CDs that's just sat on the shelf doing nothing. Lesson number 8 is the realization that we hold on to a lot of just in case items. Now, I'm not saying all just in case items are bad, or that it's bad to hold on to them generally, because we're all in different circumstances, we're all in different situations. So having some just in case items, I think, is valid if something comes up and you need to buy this thing. Whereas if you've already got it just in case, it means that you don't have to spend additional money on it. A lot of my books I kept just in case, a lot of my CDs I kept just in case I ever used them, and the just in case phase lasted many years. So by the point it came to decluttering, I knew that these just in case items had to go because they were not going to get the use that they deserved. I was not going to get the value out of them that I needed. Lesson number 9 is that often it's the simple things that can bring the most joy and fulfillment. So through the decluttering, I've learned that material things can bring joy, but often it can be very fleeting. And I guess maybe that depends on how often you get use out of them. I get joy out of a lot of far simpler things, like going out walking in nature. That is one of my absolute favourite hobbies. It's one of the ways I look after my mental health and reset my mind, especially if I've had a difficult week. But it's so simple, just walking out in nature amongst the trees, listening to the birds singing. That's all free and it's all around us. It doesn't cost anything, and yet it's so much more effective, for me anyway, than the fleeting joy that I might get from a physical object. Lesson number 10 that I learned, and I'm still learning, is that decluttering is just one aspect of living a more minimalist lifestyle. Now that the major part of my decluttering process is done, I'm learning that decluttering is not the end of the story. For me, minimalism is also about changing your mindset around purchasing, being more considered about the things that you buy and bring into your home so that you don't end up in the same position a few years down the line. So if you'd like some tips on how to stop buying stuff that you don't really need, then click on the video that's on the screen now. Thanks so much for being here. Take good care, and I'll see you again soon.